I'm going to be recording this. I'll be the only person on the recording, so nobody needs to worry about that. Nice, lovely. So yeah, also if anyone ever wants to say anything, you can just pop it in the chat if that's easier. So a few guidelines before we begin. Nothing about this practice should ever hurt or feel painful. I think that there's like a bit of a misconception that that means that it's working. It doesn't mean that it's working. It just means that it's hurting. The skin on the face is sensitive. It's delicate. Everyone's skin is, it's much thinner skin than anywhere else on the body. So we need to treat it with kindness, even areas that we might not be so keen on, any little lines or blemishes that you want to get rid of, you've got to treat them with extra love, because that's the only way that you're going to get the results that you want to see. So nothing about this practice should hurt. Remember, you are in control of the pressure you are using. If things do start to feel uncomfortable, just use a lighter pressure or move on to the next area with us. Whenever you're doing any kind of skincare practice, it is really important that you work with cleansed skin, clean hands, and a massage medium, so an oil or a moisturizer. You want to have a little bit of slip so that you don't have that friction that will be a little bit inflammatory. If you are working with any inflammatory skin conditions or cuts, abrasions, bruises, blemishes, rosacea, just work around them. So I've got a little breakout here. I'm going to be working around it, never over it, because that would be painful, pro-inflammatory. We're going to work to the side of it. And I think that's it. I think that is it. Does anyone have any areas that they're keen to work on today? Anywhere that you want to pay any special attention? Any jaw tension?
Yeah, definitely jaw.
Jaw, cool. Anything else? No? Frownies? Okay, great. Little forehead lines, neck. Good, good. Okay, great. We'll work on all of these areas. So before we start with the facial massage, as it's kind of the morning still, we're just going to start by doing a few little neck stretches. So taking your head over to one side. Whenever we're working on the face, it's really important to never neglect the neck. The neck is our only motorway access in and out of the face, so it needs to be remembered. Wonderful. And moving over to the other side. Really good. Next, creating a little cup like this, popping it behind the head and just stretching the neck forward. Using a gentle pressure, don't force anything that feels too tight or tense. And coming back up, popping hands just underneath the collarbones, applying a little bit of downwards pressure and tilting the head back to get a stretch through those front neck muscles. And having the counter stretch with the hand pulling down. Really nice. So this is great for if you've spent the week looking down at laptops, at phones. These muscles become very compressed. Really nice, everyone. Coming back to the front, we're just going to apply our oil. Today I'm using the Oilixia cacao oil. I'm always using this oil. This is basically the only oil I use. I love it. And we're going to apply to the face and neck. I would recommend applying a little bit more than you would on a normal day. I say about half a pipette. If at any point you feel like you don't have enough slip and you need to go back and get some more, that's completely fine. Definitely do that. Wonderful. And we're just going to start on the neck. So using opposite hand to opposite side that we're going to be working on, we're just going to start by doing some big circles. I'm using this kind of area of my hand, doing some big circles, ovals really, down the side of the neck, working from underneath the ear all the way down to the collarbone. not strangling yourself, being mindful of that. If you ever do this with clients, if any of you are going to train to be facialists, very easy to strangle your clients by accident. So always something to be mindful of. Watch where those thumbs are going. Use this as a little opportunity. We're working across these big muscles here, the sternocleidomastoid muscles that hold up our neck, hold up our head, sorry. These become tense quite easily. See if you feel any little tender points, painful points. You can give them a little bit of extra attention this morning. Here we're also starting to stimulate the lymphatic system. We have lots of lymph nodes that run down here underneath the ears, underneath the jaw. We'll be working a lot with the lymphatic system today. One of the body's biggest immune systems after the stomach, I think, after the gut. It helps us not be puffy. It helps skin to look bright. It moves away metabolic waste. So a lovely little bit of detoxification. Wonderful. Moving on to the second side. Really nice, everyone. If you want to increase the pressure, make sure you slow down the speed. So whenever we're going deeper, we want to go nice and slow. And just use it as a little opportunity to see what you feel on this side. Does it feel any different to the other side? Any little knots, bits of tension? Really nice. Before moving on to the rest of the front of the neck, which we will do a nice big focus on, let's just give a little bit of love to the back as well. So creating a little cup with your hands like this, we're going to use our fingertips to work on the opposite side to the heel of the hand, so where the fingertips naturally sit. On the back of the neck, you have the spine and two muscles down either side. We're going to be using fingertips to massage one muscle. It doesn't matter if you go up, down, side to side. I'm doing little circular motions like this, going up, going down. It really doesn't matter what direction you go in. This is not a particularly sensitive area. So long as you're not working on the spine, you're working on the muscle. If you do find any little knots, bits of tension, juicy bits, sensitive bits, and you want to work to release them a little bit, you can press and hold. It may feel a little bit strong, but that's basically what massage therapists do in a massage. If you don't want to feel any pain or discomfort this morning, keep it light, keep it superficial, keep it nice. Really nice. Moving on to the second side, creating your little cup, popping it around the neck, doing some circular motions, not on the bone, on the muscle. Again, seeing if there's any difference on this side, any tightness, any tension. You can work up to kind of the base of the head. We do carry a lot of tension here as we're often putting a lot of pressure on those muscles. So our skull and our brain is quite weighty. Really good, everyone. Okay, coming back to the front, we're going to create some little fists, pop them underneath the ears, and we're going to work on a diagonal following this, oh gosh, I'm really trapped in here, following this muscle that runs from just behind the ear to the corner of the collarbone, avoiding this area. Little fists working on a diagonal behind the ears down to the corner of the collarbone. Really nice. Just working into these big muscles here. Again, you choose your pressure, experiment, see what feels good. If you are using a deeper pressure, remember to use a slow pace. Wonderful. Really nice. Now to work a little bit more on the cosmetic. my tool of choice is a gua sha. It's much easier than using your hands. We're going to be working in a motion this way. It is trickier to use your hands, much easier to use the tool. So taking our tools, wherever your curve is, whatever tool you're using, it will have some kind of curve, placing it just above the collarbone, as flat to the skin surface as possible, applying a little bit of downwards pressure with the opposite hand. We're going to pull up towards just underneath the jaw. We're going to work along the neck, avoiding this area, so coming under the chin. You'll probably have to swap hands to go onto the other side, so maybe just one side at a time. And we're just going to work up. So this is a really wonderful one for these lines, what they call tech neck. I don't find the skin here to be particularly sensitive. Really nice. Yeah, so trying to keep the tool as flat to the skin as possible. So you're really getting the benefit of using like the whole surface area of the tool, or as much of it as possible, rather than working with the hard edge. Really nice. And whenever you're doing this, you can apply this little downwards counter stretch. So we're stretching out those fibers that are often compressed. Wonderful. Whenever you're ready, moving on to the second side, so you swap hands, apply a little bit of downwards pressure. I'm sitting just, my collarbone is here and I'm sitting just underneath the collarbone, pulling it down and working up to just underneath the jawbone. Lovely, everyone, keeping it as flat to the skin surface as possible, like you're spreading butter up the neck. Really good, everyone. If you're using a little bit of deeper pressure, remember to go slow. Although you are applying a little bit of inwards pressure, really the energy, the pressure, the push is like up so that you're getting that stretching out rather than like in. If this is an area of concern, it's actually quite a good one to have because this area doesn't get irritated particularly easily. You can do quite a bit of work here and see nice results. Unlike somewhere like the eyes, for example, that you can't spend too long on them as they're thin and they get easily irritated. Wonderful. Really good. When you've had enough on the neck, you can spend a couple of little extra minutes under the chin. Everybody has a little pocket of fat here. Some people actually get it removed. I mean, I don't recommend that. We also carry a lot of water tension here. So you can see quite nice results working on this little area. Still keeping that counter stretch going as well. Wonderful. Really nice. Keeping the tool as flat to the skin surface as possible. Really, really good, everyone. Nice. Next, coming back to our hands, we're going to create a little heart with our fingers. Popping our thumbs underneath the chin, using these fingers to pinch the jaw together, and we're going to work outwards. So working with the thumbs underneath the jaw, using the top fingers to pinch and do a little bit of a jaw sculpt here. Really great multifunctional move, a wonderful one for sculpting, toning, depuffing. Great for if anyone suffers from any little bits of hormonal acne, recurrent acne around this area, as we're creating a little bit of manual lymphatic drainage out towards the side of the face. Also, we're skimming over the jaw, the masseter muscles, these big muscles here that do a lot of work for us. We'll come back to do deeper work. We're just getting them a little bit warmed up to start with. A nice opportunity to see if anything's going on there. Taking a moment to notice how your face is sitting. Are you clenching your jaw? Have you got a little bit of space between top and bottom teeth? Are you allowing your tongue to be soft in the mouth? Do you need to swallow a couple of times, loosen up the throat, make sure that all those muscles are staying nice and relaxed? Could you be using a slower pace? Really, really nice, everyone. Does each side feel the same? Love it when the cats like to get involved in the videos. Wonderful. Next time you're here at the center, using these 2 fingers to just do a little bit of work into the chin. This is also a muscle that often gets forgotten, so nice to give it a little bit of love. Really nice. Okay, as it's the morning and we're getting ready for our days, we're going to do a couple of moves that are a little bit more stimulating. Using the palms of our hands, popping fingertips just by the jaw, we're going to do some brisk upward movements with the heels finishing just underneath the heels of the hands finishing just underneath the cheekbones. Here you can work on the sides of the mouth as well, if these marionette lines, I think they're called, are of any concern, but really we're just encouraging microcirculation to the face, getting the blood flowing before we do some deeper work. Remember, if you're using a faster movement, you want to use a lighter pressure, keep it nice and light and brisk. This is a great one if you look in the mirror and you're like, oh God, I look a bit dead today, just to get a little bit of color into those cheeks, particularly tricky at this time of year, I find. I found myself to be very colorless recently, a nice gray every time I look in the mirror. Nice. Next, using these fingers, we're going to do some very light little brisk movements up. So I'm working from kind of just underneath the jaw up into the cheeks. And moving on to the second side. Keeping it light, encouraging blood flow to the area, very brightening move. Also great is there are so many muscles that sit here. So many muscles that sit here, so that we're going to be working a little bit deeper into. So great to just warm them up before we start to do any deeper work. Wonderful. Next, we're going to work outwards, using fingertips from the corner of the mouth out towards the ear. Working here on these muscles called the risorius muscles, the muscles that contract to make us smile. Exactly, really good. Some people can feel them, some people can't. It doesn't matter. They're a straight line that run from the corner of the mouth out towards the ear. They contract to make us smile. We're going to do a little we're working up towards these big jaw muscles. But all of our muscles, work in synergy with each other. They work together. So if you have any tension in your jaw, it means that these muscles around the mouth, under the cheeks, will also have been working a little bit harder than usual. Really nice. Okay, next time we get to the side of the face, I just want you to pop fingertips here and clench your teeth together. Can you feel those muscles? This is what we're going to be working on now. Releasing the jaw, keeping a little bit of space between the top and bottom teeth. We're going to start by tapping. Tap, 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 tap. If anyone really suffers with jaw tension to the point where you get pain, it feels too painful to do any massage or work deeper into the muscles, just start by a light tap. Or if you can't be bothered, get a heat pack. And it does a very similar thing. It just encourages blood. It encourages vasodilation. It encourages blood to come to the area. Blood brings oxygen. Blood is healing. Wonderful. Next, using the same 2 fingers, we're going to do some big circles, keeping it pretty light for now, not too hard. Using it as an opportunity to just see what's going on. Do you have any pain, any tension? Could you apply a little bit more pressure? As it starts to warm up, you can increase the pressure. Remember, if you increase the pressure, you decrease the speed that you're working at. Nice. Next, coming to the top of the masseter, we're going to do a little walking man over the whole muscle. Applying a bit more pressure than we were doing with the circles. Maybe slowing it down a little bit. And now, if you find a little kind of juicy spot, a little knot, or just anywhere on the muscle, if you're not finding anywhere, press and hold. If this doesn't feel particularly strong for you and you want to feel a little bit more, swap out your fingers for a knuckle. And then you'll most likely feel it. If it's too strong and you need a little bit of relief, let go. Remember, you're in control of the pressure. Make sure that you're keeping space between the top and bottom jaw. We don't want to be contracting a muscle that we're trying to physically release. Nice. If you want to take it even further still, this is when our gua sha tool comes in. Also, if your arms are getting tired, using a tool is actually way easier. So choosing one side, it doesn't matter whichever side you want to start with. I'm right-handed, so I have the tool in my right hand. And we're just going to start by doing some strokes. So whenever you're using your gua sha, I should have said this at the start, you keep it as flat to the skin surface as possible. You don't want to work with the hard edge because we don't want to scrape. We want to just like spread into it and evenly distribute the pressure that we're using. So we're going to start by working up just over the muscle. If you've lost the muscle, put your fingertips there, clench your jaws together, and you'll feel it pop out again. That's where we're working. Keeping the tool as flat to the skin surface as possible. Nice. If you want to incorporate touch, you can. If you just want to work with the tool, you can. No worries. Then selecting a little point on the tool. If you have my tool, this is my favorite point, the pointiest point, you press and hold. And for me, this is so strong. You can do some static circles with the tool or little vibrations. I don't know if it does anything, but it's a really good distraction method from the pain that I feel when I demonstrate this. And when you've had enough in one spot, you can move down slightly and do the same thing. And you can do lots of tiny little bits of acupressure over the whole jaw. If you are someone who does suffer from jaw tension, I would say that this is a great muscular release. But if you want to stop getting that tension, you need to address why you're getting it in the first place. Much easier to rub a gua sha tool on your face rather than, you know, delve down a bit more. I think if I could delete my inbox, then I'd probably never clench my jaw again, but that's not the world we live in. And just moving on to the second side, starting by stroking up. So you always want to work with the tool. It's easier to work with the tool, same hand as same side of face that you're working on. Keeping the tool as flat to the skin surface as possible. So I'm working on the left-hand side and I'm using my left hand. Nice, keeping the tool as flat to the skin surface as possible. Yep, good. You can incorporate a little stroke, or you can just use the tool, and you can use your hand as a little anchor if that feels easier for you. Nice. And whenever you're ready, you can take the pointiest point, any or gua shas, whatever one you're using will have a little point, and press and hold. When you've had enough in one spot, you can move it again, press and hold. Really nice. I'm just going to show you one more thing on the jaw. You guys can join in or not join in. It's up to you. Some people aren't so keen to stick their fingers in their mouth during the workshop, which I understand, but I'll demonstrate to you. Anyway, working intraorally is a really wonderful way to help with this jaw tension. You pop your thumb inside the cheek of your mouth, pinch the cheek together, and you work simultaneously inside and outside to massage the jaw. So now I'll demonstrate. It's not good to talk and demonstrate at the same time, I've learned. And you can see it's working on all of the buccal muscles. You can do it around the nasolabial lines if you need a little bit more. Yeah, and you can pinch, like you can pinch that muscle. It is a big muscle. You don't need to be, oh, I would recommend using opposite hand to opposite side of face as it's a little bit easier. And you can work all the way along the top and all the way along the bottom as well. Your mouth will be a lot bigger than you thought it was. I know that mine was. And if you're with me and you want to move on to the second side, opposite hand to opposite side of the face. Really good, guys. Love how up for that you were. Okay, back to the gua sha. We're going to work a little bit on one side of the face and a little bit on the other. It doesn't matter what side you start with. I'm starting with my right side with the tool in my right hand. If you have my tool, we're working with the serrated edge to the ceiling, the big curve that fits quite nicely into the face. If you have a different gua sha, it doesn't matter. You just want the big curve to kind of fit the contour of your face. We're going to start on a bit of a diagonal, anchoring the fingers here, and we're going to pull up. So we're going to do some lifting moves, keeping the tool as flat to the skin surface as possible. Flat, 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 flat. Not working with the hard edge, working flat. Nice. And you're not using a lot of inwards pressure. You're not pushing into the bones, pushing into the skin. It's like you're stretching apart, lifting. So your energy is this way. The pressure is this way. This is my favorite thing, I think, to do with the gua sha, because it's really effective, but it's like really multifaceted. So wherever you want to create a little bit of lift or depuffing, you can change the angle. It's a great way to get results fast. If you've ever watched any of my videos, you'll know that I'm notoriously lazy when it comes to doing things. So I want it to be nice and easy. This is an easy one. Easy and effective. Nice. Next, popping it here so it fits into these little nasolabial lines. The nasolabial lines are the line that runs from the nose to the corner of the mouth. And we're going to do the same thing. Anchoring here, anchoring, and pulling in opposite directions. Nice. Keeping that tool as flat to the skin surface as possible. Flat, 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 flat. The pressure that you're using is not into the face, not pushing into the bones, but lifting up towards the hairline. Wonderful. Really good, everyone. If your skin is starting to feel a little bit sensitive, tingly, you're feeling any heat, just use less pressure. Even if you are prone to flushing, you shouldn't be going too red from this. If you're finding it a bit hard with your arms, stick that elbow up in the air. It'll help you get the angle. Nice. Wonderful. Now just bringing this next to the nose, under the eye, anchoring by the side of the nose. We're going to work out, keeping the tool as flat to the skin surface as possible, giving a little wiggle when you get to the ear. Nice. So the pressure that you're using here is dead light. If you feel the difference between kind of hair on your cheek and here, you'll feel hair is a lot bonier and the skin is a lot thinner compared to here, which has a nice bit of fat. So keep it very, very light. Everything that we're working on underneath here is right there. Whether you're concerned about any puffiness, dark circles, fine lines, everything that you're working on is right there. The lymphatic fluid is just there. The blood is just there. There's no need to work deep as we're not working through any fat. We're working on thin skin that sits on the orbital bone, the cheekbones. Really nice. And you can do that little wiggle when you get to the ear, extra bit of massage. Nice. Next, coming back here, next to the eye, we're going to do a little technique where we're using our first finger. Can you see my first finger bending? And we're not losing contact with the skin, but we're doing a little pump all the way along. So let me show you on my arm. Pump, 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 pump. Just by bending those top fingers. Using a super light pressure. Nice. So if you think about how the heart pumps blood around the body, where the lymphatic system doesn't have its own pump, that's what's responsible for us having a little bit of puffiness around the eyes. So we can pump it manually, manual lymphatic drainage, pumping it out towards the side of the face, down the ears, and then let's just do a couple of strokes down the neck. Keeping that tool nice and flat. Wonderful, really good. Then we're going to swap hands and repeat on the second side. So with that curve sitting nicely on the face, we're going to start by working up here, doing some diagonal movements, anchoring just here and working up. If, like me, you have any little breakouts, notice that I'm not working over them, I'm working around them. Keeping that tool as flat to the skin surface as possible, flat, 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 flat. And the pressure that you're using, the energy is going this way, not this way. Really nice. Always keeping that little anchor there, and it's very subtle, but you're doing a kind of counter pull. You're very subtly pulling your fingers in the opposite direction, stretching out those fibers, stretching out the muscles, getting a nice little bit of lift in there, encouraging microcirculation to the area, which stimulates collagen production. It also brings oxygen. It's very brightening. All good stuff. Wonderful. If you are applying a little bit more pressure, remember to take it slow. Very nice. Next, coming to put the contour of this tool just in those nasolabial lines, using your fingers as an anchor, and we're pulling up towards the hairline. Wonderful. Doing a little counter stretch with the fingers with our anchor, keeping that tool as close to the skin surface as possible so we're not working with the hard edge, not scraping. Being mindful of pressure, take a moment to notice how your skin is feeling. Is it feeling okay? Are you getting any kind of discomfort at all? Really nice. If at any point you need to shake out your hands, feel free. Really good job, everyone. Wonderful. Next, keeping the tool in the same position with our hands, popping it next to the nose, anchoring just on the side of the nose, and we're working out towards the side of the face and giving a little wiggle when we get to the ear. Using a lighter pressure here as we're working over bone and thinner skin. So I love a gua sha for depuffing, for lymphatic drainage, and also for that quick lift. Nice. Next time we come back to this position, we're going to use our first finger to do a little pumping motion. So let me just demonstrate on my hands. You can see my first finger, this one, first finger is bending and stretching to create that little pump. It's a practice. Just make sure that while you're concentrating on something new, you're remembering to keep the pressure nice and light. I think there's always the temptation when you're really focusing to like push really hard. Keep it light, you'll be great. So we're not losing contact with the skin. We're keeping it super light and always keeping contact. Keeping the tool flat to the skin surface. You can do your little wiggle when you get out to the ear. An extra little bit of massage, little pumps to stimulate any kind of stagnant lymph to move on out. Wonderful. Really nice. And now just doing a couple of strokes down the neck, keeping the tool flat to the skin. You work just until the collarbone, not over bone. Great. We're going to give our gua shas a little bit of a rest now and come back to our hands. Just check and see if you have enough slip. You may need a little bit of oil. Okay, nice. So we're going to do one quick sculpting move on either side, and then we'll go into a little bit lighter work. So taking either fingertips or knuckles, we're going to work underneath here, so underneath the zygomatic arch. So if you just feel where your cheek is, and you feel where your cheek isn't, we're going to work up underneath that. As you can see, my top lip lifts. I'm hooking up and under. So we can either work with fingertips, starting from just next to the nose and running underneath. This should feel a little bit uncomfortable. If you're not feeling much and you want some deeper pressure, take the knuckle of the opposite hand and run that underneath. If it's too hard and you're finding it uncomfortable, you don't like it, just use fingertips. That's okay. Do whatever feels good for you this morning. Seeing some quite pained expressions. Nice. So this is a really great one for any sinus congestion. And also a nice little sculpting move. It's also great for anyone who has jaw tension. As you can see, our jaw hinges here. So if we're clenching, it's also creating tension underneath this bit. So just a nice little massage for underneath the cheekbone, the zygomatic arch it's called. Wonderful. Each time you do it, it should, you know, if it does feel quite tender, the more you do it, the less tender it gets, just like any massage or stretching or anything like that. Really nice. Moving on to the second side, feeling where your cheek is, feeling where your cheek isn't, hooking up and under, and using either fingertips to work underneath it or a knuckle. I find it easier to use the knuckle of the opposite hand because you can have a bit more force as you're pushing rather than pulling. And the energy that you're using is a little bit up. So you're hooking up and under and then also out rather than into the skull. Really nice. Really good, everyone. Okay. The torch is over. Taking ring fingers, popping them, or fourth fingers, popping them underneath the eyes. We're going to start with some little semicircles. Keeping it nice and slow. Very, very light. The pressure that you're using is just the weight of your fingers. You're not pushing in, you're just keeping it superficial. Really nice. Next time you come to the corner of the eyes, we're going to push up onto the brows using a harder pressure, and then complete the circle by coming back underneath, light, 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 up over the brows, harder pressure, circling back round, keeping it very light. Wonderful. We'll repeat this a few times. Really nice. When you go over the brows, notice how they feel. These are two big muscles, are corrugator muscles, the ones that are responsible for the frownies. These are muscles that work hard in expressing, when we're expressing ourselves. Quite often active in slightly more negative expressions: worry, concern, anger. They often carry more tension than we realize. They can be a little tender. This is not a delicate area of the face, unlike underneath the eye, which is very, very delicate. We can apply a little bit of pressure here. Wonderful. Next time we're on the brows, we're just going to stay here. Maybe swapping to using these two fingers a little bit stronger. We're going to just stroke over the brow and then come back to the center, over the brow. So although we're applying a little bit of downwards pressure, we're also purling them, stretching them away from each other. So when we frown, the corrugators come in, and this muscle in the middle, the procerus, pops out. So we're stretching them away, giving that procerus muscle, the one that sits in the middle, a little bit of a massage as well. Wonderful. Taking the thumb and the third finger, we're gonna pinch those muscles. Pinch and hold for a couple of seconds, a couple of breaths. Notice how the rest of your face is sitting. Are you clenching that jaw? Is it nice and relaxed? Is your tongue soft in your mouth? When you release, you just move over to the next point. And we're going to do this all the way along the brow. Pressing and holding, noticing how it feels. If you're finding it super painful, of course, use a lighter pressure. If you think that you can apply a little bit more pressure, give it a go, see how it feels. Wonderful. Flats of hands coming back to the center. We're going to work up the nose and over the brow. Taking it nice and slow. Just warming up this little area between the brows before we do a little bit of deeper work. Okay, you guys carry on with this. The next bit that we're going to do needs to be approached with caution. You can burst blood vessels here. As I said before, the areas that you are not a fan of, you've got to treat with extra love, because if you treat them with hate, bad things are going to happen. They're going to turn against you. So just keep that in mind before we move on to the next bit. Really nice. If you want to take this all up over the brow, feel free, giving these frontalis muscles a little bit of a stretch. Again, using the full kind of length of your hands, the full surface area of your hands. And the energy, the pressure that you're using is up, up, up. Wonderful. If you need to give your hands a shake, no worries, you shake them out, give your neck a little stretch. Great. Getting our tool back involved again. So I love using my gua sha for anything to do with lines, working on the forehead, these little frownies. So we're just going to start by using the curve and doing a similar thing to what we've just been doing with our hands. So I just use my dominant hand, my right hand, keeping the tool flat to the skin surface, flat, 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 giving a little anchor here at the top of the nose, and we're going to pull upwards. Wonderful. And we can do this all across our forehead. You may need to swap hands to work on the other side, or you may not, whatever feels more comfortable for you. It may be easier to hold the tool with your fingers at the front. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, perfect. And that anchor can follow you, so it's always underneath where you're working, always giving a little bit of a counter stretch, a downward stretch. These muscles that sit across the forehead are called the frontalis muscles. They contract to give us these lovely lines. Nice. Take it slow, nice and slow. So when you're working with the gua sha over the forehead, this is a bony area. It hasn't got much fat, and this is a hard tool. It's stone. So you can burst blood vessels here. So always work with kindness. Nice. Next, doing the same thing, but just working from the center out. So keeping the tool as flat to the skin surface as possible, anchoring in the middle, working from the center out. You can also work across the eyebrow here. Giving a little counter stretch with the opposite hand. Wonderful. You can also get a little massage over the temples as well, which always feels lovely. Nice. And when you're ready, swapping onto the second side, swapping hands. Again, it's a practice. If you're not used to working with your non-dominant hand, it can feel a little bit strange, but you know, the more you practice, the more use you get to it. The reason that you always want to be using same hand as same side of face is because if I was doing it the other way, I'd be pushing rather than kind of pulling and smoothing and spreading. I'd be forced to use like the hard edge of the tool, and it would be more like scraping. Wonderful. Okay, next, taking the pointy edge. We're going to be using a fast motion, so we use a light pressure. Working on these little lines if they're a concern for you, stretching the skin using the pointiest edge of the tool and doing back and forth over it, friction. So I'm working fast but light, stretching the skin so that it's not moving around too much, using the hard pointy edge of the tool to do friction. And as you can see, the blood comes to the area very, very quickly. I'm not someone who flushes much, having olive skin, but you can see even with me, it comes quickly. So this is something not to do in front of the TV. This is something to do in front of the mirror. You do it for a little bit, a few seconds. You see how things are looking. You give it a little rest. And then you decide if your skin can tolerate a little bit more. It happens to all of us. We burst blood vessels. They take ages to heal. So if you can avoid that, that would be great. The way that you do it is just by concentrating on what you're doing. Whenever you're ready to move on to the second side, you stretch the skin tight and you do a light but fast pressure over the skin, over the line. We're working perpendicular to the line, so we're working across it. This can also be applied to any lines that you have going across the forehead. You stretch the skin and you work perpendicular to the line, up and down. If you have one of my tools, that is what the serrated edge is for. So you can go up and down with this raised edge. If you don't have it, you just use a little pointy bit on whatever gua sha tool you have. It does the same thing. Just remember to keep it light, so light, and check how things are looking before moving on to a different part of the forehead. And you want to work perpendicular to the line. So if the line sits horizontally, you're going up and down. If it sits vertically, you're going side to side. Really nice. Good, everyone, keeping it light. Nice. When you've had enough, you can do a couple of soothing strokes, light pressure. You can even wiggle into the hairline a little bit as these muscles keep going up into the hairline. Giving that a little bit of a massage. Wonderful. How are you all feeling? Are you all okay? Nice. Good. Great. So just popping down our tools, we're going to come back and finish with hands. So just working with I work with my third finger, any fingertip, popping it over the third eye. We're just going to do some teeny tiny circles, very light pressure, closing down the eyes. We'll stay here for a few breaths, 5 breaths, deep breaths, inhaling and exhaling. And taking this opportunity to see how different you feel from the start of the practice. If there's anything that you've done today that is something that you want to commit to as a daily practice or a weekly practice, something that you feel you would really benefit from, whether that's on, from a mental health perspective, from a physiological perspective, such as jaw tension, or my favorite, a cosmetic perspective, working on those lines. Really nice. Blinking open the eyes. We're going to finish with my favorite facial reflexology move, using the finger like a little caterpillar, placing it between the brows and just working up towards the hairline and floating back down. A nice calming move. We have done some invigorating things today. Wonderful. Really nice. We'll stay here for a couple more breaths. When you come back, you just lightly glide down. Great. To finish up, we're just going to make some peace signs with our hands. Pop them either side of the ears and just work up and down. We've worked a lot with the lymphatic system today. We have loads of lymph nodes that sit either side of the ears. So we're just going to do a tiny bit of lymphatic drainage to finish off. In any facial practice, even if it's just 1 minute, I recommend that you start and finish with the neck. The neck is the only way in and out of our face. It's the way that blood gets to our skin. It's the way that lymphatic drainage drains away. Really nice. Making those fists that we started with at the beginning, popping them underneath the ear and working down to the collarbone. Just above the collarbone, not over bone. Really good, everyone. Nice. Next, taking fingertips, we're just going to do some tapping over the chest. Tap, 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 tap. Encouraging this fluid to go down to these huge lymph gatherings of lymph nodes that we have underneath our underarms. If you're ever under the weather, they might feel a little bit sore. It's because they're doing their job as our immune system. Next, grabbing under the arms, pump, 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 pump. Great. And then just giving your hands a shake off, shaking off any stagnant energy that you've moved this morning. Really well done, everyone. How are you all feeling? All good? Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Does anyone have any questions for me at all? Any questions? Anything at all? I'm going to answer some frequently asked questions, even though no one's asked me them. So you can do this practice max daily. I would not recommend doing it any more than daily. If you cannot commit to an hour a day, that is completely understandable. My way of kind of incorporating it into my week is just by picking one area a day. So like whether that's my jaw or between the brows, and just spending a minute or two on it each evening. And then it feels a lot more manageable. I think if the goal is to do like an hour, even a week, it seems really unachievable, and then it just never gets done. Pick the things that resonated the most with you, the things that you're going to get the most value, and commit to them as a little practice, fitting it in wherever you can. With the tool, make sure that you clean your tool every time you use it. I haven't got it right here, but I just use the Dr. Bronner hand spray. You can just use soap and water and pop it back in its little pouch to keep it safe. Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. I hope to see you all soon, either in a workshop or at the studio or at Skin School. But yeah, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Bye.